to open the public hearing? So at this time, the first item on the agenda is to open the public hearing regarding the rezoning of certain city-owned real estate. And this is for a lot that's in the 40-acre industrial tract, retail tract. And we had a special meeting, we discussed it. And the discussion was pretty much that the council has decided it's not an ideal situation, but that since we can't find any other ground and there is a need, we think, for apartment housing, that we were going to go ahead and be in favor of changing that. We'll vote on it here in a little while. There's kind of a wrench thrown into it in the fact that we haven't gotten any change in our contract that we have. And so we can't sell the property. I'm sure that Tom or whoever wouldn't want to buy it, right, with that hanging in the balance. The legal team been working on trying to get permission, but they can't get permission from the person's name is Randall Block. And her word to Lee was she doesn't want to be hurried, so I don't know what that means. But I mean, we talked this we spent probably 45 minutes on this at the special meeting. But the public meeting is open, and is there anyone that wants to speak again in favor of the zoning change? And is there anyone that would like to speak against the zoning change? Is there anyone in a neutral position? So we can come back to that. We'll keep the public hearing open. Second thing on the agenda is to talk about the 2020 census. And we've got, is that right?
She's not here.
Jean's not here yet?
She's not coming.
She's not gonna come?
No.
Is there anything we should know that your information that they're looking for workers, right?
Yeah, she came to the Wake meeting and said they're hiring, so I'm assuming it was gonna be the same speech, but she didn't give a reason, just said she wasn't gonna be here.
All right. So who do you contact if you're interested in doing the census? You got a number that you can, the city office?
There's one in the paper, right? Yeah. And there's one in the post office too.
So there is.
It was posted. I don't know off the top of my head, but it was in there, yeah.
Okay. So that one probably is not gonna happen. Third item is action on the minutes from the January 8th meeting, 2020. Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve the January 8th minutes.
Second.
Okay, and we've got Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Action on the meetings for the January 19th council retreat. Any comments, any discussion?
Attached.
They are attached? Didn't we go over those at the meeting after that? or- I thought we did too, but
At the special meeting?
did we not vote on approving them? Is that what
I don't
happened?
think so. I try to only have that approved at regular meetings, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong. No idea.
So should we table that and wait till the?
Table.
Action minutes from the February 5th special meeting where we talked about the zoning change.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, February 5th.
Larry and Scott? Ross?
I have a comment.
Oh,
Sorry.
comment? Yeah, go ahead.
That one should be listed as a special meeting. It's regular council and it was a special. Sorry.
On the top.
On the top, okay, here,
And in the
okay.
first paragraph.
Put on there.
Sorry, Zach.
Well, that's good. Anything else?
Told you that too. That's the only correction.
So we still have your motion in a second? And Val?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And Ross? Abstain? Okay. Action on the January 2020 Treasurers Report. That's in your packet.
Mhm.
You'll have a chance to look at it.
Mhm.
This checks that we haven't signed, we'll sign in the morning. Unless you guys have a problem with anything.
I would move to approve the January 2020 training report.
Second.
Got a motion by Ross and second by Val. Scott?
Aye.
Larry? Ross?
Aye.
And Val.
Aye.
Close the hearing.
Okay, we're gonna go to number 8, we're gonna, we need a motion to close the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak to that zoning change? All right. Need a motion?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
And Ross seconded the motion. Val?
Aye.
Scott? Larry?
Aye.
Ross? Okay.
Just one question, 7 talks about 1, 2, and 3, but the hearing is just for 3.
We wanted to have a discussion on lots 1, 2, and 3, just a brief discussion. We won't take any action on it. It would have to go to, that would have to go to planning and zoning before we could really vote on it irregardless, but, we've got, Larry thought that if we rezone 3, that it would make sense to rezone 1 and 2 also. And that would go to planning and zoning. If you want to have planning and zoning discuss it and dissect it and think about it, we could do that. We can't vote to rezone them. We can simply vote on maybe taking, letting planning and zoning talk about it and come back with a recommendation. Is that correct? So any discussion about doing that?
Yeah, we're going to do number 3, we're moving number 3 from, to general commercial. So I guess there's number 1 lot is the one furthest to the north. And then number 2 is in the middle and 3 is at the end at 9th Street. And why I'm thinking of doing all 3 of them is because we're having trouble finding property in the city limits. For one thing, people don't want a apartment building in their backyard. Neighbors don't want it. We've talked to several people that have property and they don't want it, and we've sat on this council for the last 6 months, being pushed to find some land, and I think that we have an opportunity out there. I think that's our only place to put a apartment complex, because just where it is, I mean, we don't like to put it out there, but I don't think we have any other place to put it, and since we're putting one out there, we only got 2 other lots out there, so I think we should get them both zoned for general commercial and be ready to go. Cause Thomas stated to us, he's gonna build 2 on number 3, and he said if things go well, he would like to use number 2, so.
Okay.
And since we're making a step out there, everybody's gonna see 1 out there, I don't know why another one would be a problem. Because CVA is gonna put up a fence anyway, since we're gonna do this. The school has talked about working things out, go out there, so.
Ross, did you have a comment?
Yeah, we had this discussion earlier basically, but I feel like, let's wait and see how this project goes first, if we're gonna rezone, it's a lot 3.
Yeah,
Lot
last week's one we're looking at.
If they can get 2 units on that, it's gonna take all of a year probably to get that done. My opinion is, let's see how that goes first before we jump into rezoning, lots 1 and 2. Especially if we're talking downtown revitalization and some things like that right now, there may be some opportunity to do some things, whether it's apartments or mixed-use buildings downtown as well. So I'd like to see how this goes first before we, push that too far. That's just my opinion.
Val?
Well, I'm looking at the map. Okay, the one on the corner is what Tom's choosing to purchase and put 2 complexes on it, or 2 buildings on it, an 8 and a 12, because he said it's big enough. If you look to the north, which is down on your map, that one is a narrower lot, number 2, and number one, they're both narrower lots. 2 is longer, but I'm wondering if it would suit Tom to go to the east on lot 4. Cause lot 5 right now is storage, is that right? So that leaves lot 4 just to the east of where Tom would like to build now, open. So, you know, and looking at the map now, I'm thinking, well, I don't know. That might be something he might be interested in later too, and again, that would help keep people, traffic, and kids a little farther away from the commercial, which is closer to the highway on the other side. Dollar General down to Doctor's and on down to, McAfee's. So, that hadn't occurred to me till now, till I see the map.
Scott?
I'm not opposed to changing any of it. I think it's a good idea to wait and see, what comes open. I mean, the time, a lot changes in time. I think we can wait. I'm not opposed to changing anything else. See if something does come open downtown or we'll talk about several things. And maybe we can see what, where they wanna build in the future or what lot they want. I mean, rather than rezoning, the first 2 right away, or lot 1 and lot 2. But I'm not opposed to it, if it's needed.
Well, Larry and I have been meeting with a lot of property owners, and Ross, when you asked us to do this, you asked us to go as elected officials and try to find out where people stood on their property, whether they were interested at all in selling property. And we were gonna try to keep it amongst, council members or need to know, people that work for the city. And we got over half of those, but we've kind of been discouraged lately because we find out that other people are going and talking to people after we promised them that if they would just give us how they felt about it, we wouldn't bother them if they weren't at this time ready to sell. And it's a little bit discouraging, at least on my behalf, because we told them that it was confidential and we would keep it amongst the elected officials as best we could, and with knowing that Jim was gonna have to be involved in it at some point, and probably our legal team. But, I've got a person I've called 3 times and he wants to meet, and then I find out that we've already sent a contingent to meet with him. And, I don't know, it's almost like we're wasting our time. And I think we'd be done now, except I was in the hospital and then I had a problem with my leg, and Larry's had some health issues as well, but we fully intend to meet with everyone on the list. But, that being said, that we talked to the churches, and the only one we've heard back from is St. John's Church. And they told us that they're not interested in selling that property, that they have a long-term desire, they think, down the road, that they might develop their own housing there that would be more, that they could kind of decide what type of a building, houses they would have, what types of buildings there would be. And so that's we haven't heard back from Salem. We haven't heard back from the Covenant Church. So I don't know if they just threw the letter away or if they are at least going to get back to us. But we do have members from those churches that are out, actively looking for lots. I would think that I'd probably have to check with the chairman of the church and see what the Covenant Church has done.
That's the first I heard that.
You didn't somebody got the letter. We don't know who got that letter then, do we, Larry?
No.
But, they've got a couple of lots, and I don't suppose that they're interested in selling either one of them, but those are examples. We also had, we've talked to half the people that have ground that would maybe be suitable for housing. And we'll continue with that, but if we've got all kinds of people going out and asking them what if your land is for sale, then it doesn't make much sense for us to do it and try to keep it confidential. How do you feel, Larry?
Yes, agreed.
What do you want us to do? You want us to keep doing what we're doing?
Council?
Yes. If somebody owns land, it's their choice whether to sell it or not. And you have to treat them with respect. You can't be saying, well, you're just sitting on that property and it's just sitting there looking like a dump, so just sell it to us. we gotta be a little careful. And that worries me. And again, if it's their property, they may choose to not do exactly what everybody else would feel is best for the community. But, you know, we need to treat people with respect. So that makes me nervous. In a lot of people, talking to some of the folks that we've already talked to and assured them, it's your business, it's your choice, we would love to work with you. If at any time you change your mind and choose to work with us, fine. But in the meantime, we'll leave you alone, and then that doesn't happen.
That has been our approach.
Now, if it's a individual person that's going to buy the property for themselves, it's a different story. But if it's a city entity where we've got a city committee or a city staffer that's doing it, then I think that we maybe didn't make ourselves clear, but we were, you know, the suggestion was made by a good council member, and we've tried to do, we voted on that suggestion. We thought it would be a good idea. I mean, everybody was on board with it, and it doesn't have to be Larry or I that go see these people. It can be any of the elected officials. That's kind of what we decided. So there are some people that can maybe go talk to some others, but it doesn't make any sense to put all that time and effort into it and then have other people talking for the city. Period. I mean, is that how you feel? We'll keep up, and we've got a lot more names to talk to. And yeah, we've got 2 people that have land property to sell. And we've got one person that we talked to that's really, I think, would be a really nice, viable option. But he said, he thought about it. He said, right now, no. But he said, you know, get back to me. So I think we're making some good progress. Now, when my brother got back from Vietnam, I was teaching in Wayne, and we kind of decided we'd like to expand our greenhouse operation. Well, I contacted Kay Connor, and she contacted all of her brothers and stepbrother, and took about 1.5 years to purchase the lot. We paid for it. We bought it. We took the gamble on it. We paid we paid everything, or the owners of the property paid for it. If somebody wants to do that, that's a different story. But if we're using money that's not your own, then I would appreciate that you follow what we suggested that we do, and that is to let the council get an inventory of property that's for sale. And I strongly suggest that you do that. I think it's unfair. You know, Val filed for re-election. I ran in 4 primaries and 4 general elections. I had an opponent in every one of them. I was elected 8 times, so I think that the people think maybe I should be one of the guys that makes some of those decisions, as opposed to people that haven't been elected. I think I've at least earned that, and I think the people in the council have earned that as well.
You and Larry have been kind of going out and reaching out to these people. Do you want some of us to help you out? I'm sure you'd be willing to do that.
We know that we're probably, I know that I'm not as busy as the other 4 here. And I know that Larry's been really dedicated to the task. And I think that if you have time, if Val has time, if Scott has time, that would be great. I think sometimes maybe 2 council people go out. But we try to talk to people that we thought we had a fairly good relationship with. And I think that it's important that you do it that way.
I think if you're interested, talk to Paul and you can
Okay.
lead you in the
You guys have talked
direction.
to so far.
Yep,
Yeah.
where to go.
The biggest thing with that was just, you know, rather than speculating on all this property, reaching out to these people and finding out, you know, are they interested, or are, like you said, Val, they just want to be left alone, you know, which is fine. But at least we know what's available, and we aren't, you know, talking about someone else's property with, you know, ideas of what we could do with it, when in reality, there's no way that you're ever gonna.
That's why you suggested to do it.
Right.
Okay, so I guess Larry, then, with you talking about lots 1 and 2, we could either wait on that. Val had another suggestion on another lot, maybe. It would have to go to planning and zoning. You want to wait and bring it up next meeting, or you want to make the motion?
Do a motion to send it to planning and zoning and consider the options with lots 1, 2,
And 4.
and 4. And see what they feel about it.
So is that a motion that you just made now?
Second.
And Val seconds the motion? Larry?
Aye.
Ross?
Nay.
Val?
Aye.
And Scott?
Can't they discuss it every time though? I mean, really?
All Jim has to do is put it on the agenda probably and come up, but if you direct it, it's just clear, and so, either way. Does that make sense? It may take us 6 months of arguing to figure out what.
So, you say yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Or debating, maybe that's better way to say it.
Now you need to take up what to do with number 3.
Before that, we do appreciate all the work that planning and zoning has done because they've been doing a lot of work for the city. And we appreciate that. The next one, we talked at the special meeting, we weren't going to do anything until we got a clear ruling and a legal document that said that we could have residential there. But the point was made that you could still rezone that, just don't sell we can't sell the real estate with that issue hanging over the property. So on the agenda, we have to rezone city property, and it's lot number 3. So we could, Lee said we could go ahead and change that zoning tonight, if that's what you'd like to do. Any discussion?
I think it's a good idea to change it tonight, just to show that we're making progress and that we're ready to go.
Val?
If we do get a hold of Dollar General, or lawyers or whatever.
Ross?
I agree, I don't think it hurts anything to change the zoning tonight. Ultimately, I think, Dollar General is crazy not to want an apartment next to their facility, so I don't know why they wouldn't wanna change, but we do need to probably get clarification from them.
Larry?
Yep, we need to get it changed and get the paperwork cleared with Dollar General.
So if we change this, and if we do get word from Dollar General, you probably would wanna have a special meeting to get the ball rolling on that as quickly as possible. Would that be true? To sell that lot if we get the if we change the zoning and then the property is available to sell for residential, would you want to have a special meeting that we could expedite the progress of the process?
Do we need a special meeting to sell what?
No, it would just be, you wouldn't have to wait till March, till your March meeting.
Yeah, the concern that I would have would be, we had some discussions with one of the prospective buyers, and one of the things was we'd like to have it landscaped as far as having grass there and having some trees there. And it didn't sound like he had any objection, but I think that you would have to have that in your agreement, wouldn't you? We did that with CVA. We asked them to plant trees out in front of their office, and they did so. And they also put the grass area out there. And so landscaping, trees and grass, not a sprinkler system, but grass and trees, and keep the property clean. And the other thing was we wanted to have a paving district then and pave that block and have that person pay for his share of that street paving. And the way I understand it, that's one of the things that if you do the TIF, that could go for that paving, is that right? That's one of the areas it could go for. And Larry, you had a conversation with Tom on that, right?
Yeah, 9th Street, he would just pay for his half of the street, the city of Wakefield would pay for our half, so.
We'd pay for the rest of it and pass it on to the cost of the lots.
Those are the 3 things we asked him to consider with the paving district for 9th Street, the shrubs, trees, and then make sure there's no parking on Cottonwood Street or 9th Street. We understood all those 3 things would be asked, so.
So I think we would wanna make sure we got that in the lease at least, not in the lease, but in the sale. So you heard what we said, and
So there is an ordinance that somebody needs to introduce, at 3-2020.
Ordinance 3-2020, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Wakefield, Nebraska to change certain real estate now zoned as 1-1 Light Industrial District to C2 General Commercial District, and to provide an effective date. Be it ordained by the mayor and the council of the city of Wakefield, Nebraska, 502 East 9th Street, Wakefield, Nebraska, also known as Lot 3, Block 3, Industrial Park Edition, Wakefield, Wayne County, Nebraska. And that the zoning map of the city of Wakefield is hereby amended such that the property identified by the following address now zoned is that I-1, Industrial 1, Light Industrial District, to rezoned as C2 General Commercial District.
So I move to introduce.
Just
and-
introduce it,
Move to introduce.
and then you don't have to vote on that, you just introduce it.
Okay.
And then the question is, if you wanna waive the 3 readings, make a motion to waive. Or you don't have to.
I'll make a motion to waive three readings.
So we have to have we've got a motion to waive the 3 readings. Is that what you want first?
Yeah,
So we need a second to that.
right.
Second.
Okay, we're gonna vote. Ross?
Aye.
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 Alright, so we got that done.
You need a motion to pass.
A motion to pass the ordinance.
Make a motion to final passage of ordinance 2020.
Second.
Val?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Ross? That's all we need. Want me to sign it? We should get a picture of this.
Just wave to the camera.
There you go. All right, thank you, guys. Oh, now we got a really good thing to do with that, right? Number 10? Award bid for Mitchner Street paving project, Community Development Block Grant number 18, Public Works 013. Rob.
We opened bids for Missioner Street, last week, and we had some really good bids. There were three bids, Steve Harris Construction, Gill Construction, and A&R Construction. The low bid was, Steve Harris Construction at $426,669.28.
And that is really good news, because he's done a great job here before us, and the bid came in less than your projection.
It did, yes, we were estimating in the 550 to 600 range, so it was a really good number.
And Jim's report, you listed that between the South Main and Mitchner, the bids came in how much less than what the,
$336,000.
so $336,000 is a lot of money, and we think that might allow us to maybe do that Sixth Street between Main and Winter.
Yep.
And did you have, we have to vote to accept this, don't we?
Yep, and then that'll be the 6 will be next.
Okay. Any discussion about this?
I assume you're recommending it.
Yes, I am.
I just have a general question. Why do you see so much variability between the bids? I mean, almost $300,000.
We get asked that question a lot, and I really can't answer specifics on how contractors bid certain projects. I know it depends on what type of workload they have, their availability to get in and do the project. And then a lot of times, you know, like the high bid will always tend to be really high. And I think some people might just throw a bid out there, in case maybe they get lucky and there's only one type of deal. So that is a pretty extreme range, I'll give you that on this one. We opened the A&R's bid first, and I was like, whoa. Took a deep breath when I read that one at first. I thought, well, maybe we missed something, but we read the other couple bids, and I felt a little bit better about that.
Good. I know Val had a couple of questions.
Yeah, I wondered if the property owners have been contacted regarding the trees and the sidewalks. And like the timeline, the city hasn't talked to them yet about when it begins, but the trees and the sidewalk, that's one of the things we talked about earlier, and Kim asked me about it, one day at lunch, and I said, oh, you haven't been talked to yet? She said, no. I
But
said,
Val-
okay.
Val, you also had the question, I couldn't answer it. Is there a sidewalk planned there?
Yeah,
There's sidewalk, there's a little bit of sidewalk that will be added to the, south end of the project.
Uh-huh.
The remaining sidewalk on the project
Oh.
should, pretty much most all of it will stay the same, and
Okay.
won't be touched.
yeah, but the one where they have never had a sidewalk on either side of the street, and now we're gonna add one.
Yeah, we had discussed that.
Yeah.
Between Eighth and Seventh.
Correct.
Uh-huh.
So that's gonna have a sidewalk on which side?
East side.
East side.
East side, so that would be.
Kim's.
That would be Barnes'.
And, yeah, and I wasn't sure where it went according to the trees, they're concerned about it, she said, well, yeah, I guess I'll learn to scoop, so.
Do you know how that sidewalk would run, or?
It lines up with the other sidewalk, that continues on down the street. There is one tree that we are showing to be removed on the project. I don't have which one that is. And I'm not sure if it's right there on that block or not. But we have not spoken to any of the homeowners about the trees or the sidewalks yet at this point.
So if we approve this, then who would be the person? Would it be Jim that would talk to those property owners, or would it be you, or the engineering?
So we would get the schedule from the contractor, and prior to the contractor starting, we would go out and we typically put like door hangers on the door to say this project's gonna be starting, this is what the project is, here's the information, if you need additional information, please contact us.
They contact you?
They would contact us, yeah.
Okay. And if there is a prized tree, Kim's got a tree there that she's concerned about, right?
She's the one who mentioned it, so, I
Could you do one of those modern day sidewalks where they meander a little bit?
We can take a look at it definitely to see what options there are, if that's the tree, and I'm not familiar exactly with that tree, so.
Okay. Yeah.
We can definitely look at the options of what's available.
Okay.
Okay,
Is the tree in a right of way?
if you put in a
Might be.
sidewalk.
Don't know
probably.
yet.
Yeah,
If it's not in the right way, we wouldn't be doing anything with it, so.
I think it is.
I think one of them is.
And Harris's subcontract generally the overseeding after the project is done, and that's usually in August, or in this case, it might be September.
Well, in talking with them, it sounds like they might get in and get out pretty quick on this project, so they might be able to seed in the spring, actually, so. They sound like they wanna get in there and make this one of their first projects and begin in April, and,
Wow.
I mean, they had a pretty quick time frame. We haven't had a pre-construction meeting yet, but what they were telling me on the phone, it sounded pretty aggressive, so I don't know, depends on what spring rains and stuff do, but, I don't think this will take all summer.
Their subcontractor came on a Sunday, and I helped him find water and stuff, but it was really hot. And the question that we had was, who notifies them then that they need to water that or it's not gonna grow? Should that be something that Jim does? Do we talk to them personally and make personal contact, or just leave something on the door, I guess? That was kind of a problem with that last one, was that some of that grass didn't get watered, and then we didn't get a very good stand of grass, but.
Yeah,
Because-
we don't typically have any, I guess, anything in their contract that they come back and water that.
No,
That would be on the property.
but we need to contact our property owners, because if somebody's gone for a month and they don't have any word about it, it just sits there, and, or if they don't know that you have to water grass to get it to grow, or if they don't want it to grow, but there were a couple of lots that fell through last time. And he does such a good job with everything that it would be a shame if we didn't get it watered. So those are our questions. Scott, what are your questions? Okay.
When you talking about starting then,
He was talking about starting in April.
because that's kinda changed, because weren't we gonna do South Main first and then do?
Two different contractors,
So they could be going at the same time.
Well, they got a different guy.
Okay.
And the school has alternative routes. It would cause a little bit of a traffic problem there a little bit, but not a whole lot, I don't think. Coming out of that high school lot, it would.
They can pull in and turn around.
So,
But if they do, we do need to let the school know so that they tell the kids, cause that could be, cause all the kids go down that way, and we wanna try to keep them, not all, but a good number of kids. And,
Well, once we
you know,
have our meeting, we'll know a little
Yeah.
bit closer to where we're at and when we're gonna start.
the more info we get out there,
That's
the
fine.
smoother
We'll
it
follow
goes.
up on it.
Jim's got a good relationship with the school, always tells him. So are there any other questions? Larry? Ross? You guys? If not, can we have a motion to approve the bid?
So moved. Board approve, the bid from
Steve Harris?
paving for, I already closed my, for how much? Yeah. That's my bid.
Okay, we need a second. So Val made the motion, and Scott seconded it, and now you know where I'm at on Ross, you vote first.
Aye.
And Val?
Aye.
Scott? Larry? Okay. Good, and then you go to Sixth Street.
Yep, and now that we've kind of seen the numbers for the last few projects, as we kind of discussed here, there's opportunity to take Sixth Street out, and, the plans are ready to go. So if they're approved tonight, we would start advertising next week, advertise on the 20th, the 27th, and the March 5th. Open the bids on March 10th, and have the, bids ready to bring to council on the March 11th council meeting.
Do you know, Rod, where you got with the drainage there? Because our water runs down Main Street, and then it goes where Barb and Gary Preston are at, and then it shoots down that Sixth Street all the way to the highway. And Gary and Barb have had water up pretty far up on their driveway. And I know that there's been, like when we've had the heavy rains, when the school ground was pretty much bare, we had, and even when our property was bare there on the South Main, that they had mud down there on that street from Gary Preston's and Barb's all the way to the highway. By the funeral home, there was quite a bit of mud. Well, you helped clean it up, so you know that it was there. But we, we talked that day, it was so dang cold that day, but we talked about maybe making sure that those were working, the storm sewers and.
Yeah.
You're gonna add 2 inlets.
Yeah, so, yeah, we've added an inlet, and kind of looking at the configuration and pulling all the manholes and looking at stuff, it didn't look like there was, some of the connections were all tied together, so we've got a system set up to tie it into the larger pipe, so hopefully it gets into that larger pipe and heads out of the, basically away from that area faster. So, yeah, we did that.
Inlets will be at Sixth and Winter Street.
Correct, yeah.
They'll pick up some of that water.
Okay.
Six and Winter, two there now, right?
Yeah,
One
but
on
this
each
will
side.
be before the intersection.
It'll be before the intersection, plus you'll have the 2 existing available too.
Yep, we're actually not going into the intersection, too far on that project, if Winter Street was to be done in the near future, that would take care of, Winter Street, so Sixth Street will stop before we get into that intersection.
Sidewalk and corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the reason we looked at this, it was on, the street committee with Val and Larry, and this was one of the recommended streets that they thought really needed to be replaced. And there's a kind of a, I don't know if you've driven on that, but there's, by Sheila Brown, there's a pretty good, Mike Mogus, you wanna address anything with that, cause you're on that, you know what that street, is it good condition or not?
Not terrible, we use a lot of asphalt on there.
So it needs to be, in your mind, it needs to be replaced?
Absolutely.
Well, we've got an opportunity, guys, if, we could get a motion to approve plans for the Sixth Street paving have been drawn by Olson's. We could at least get it out to bid,
I
right?
haven't seen it, has anybody seen the plans?
No?
Oh.
I can send them for everybody to.
Are you gonna use the existing curbs, or are you taking the curbs
No,
out?
taking the curbs out.
Curbs out, so it'll be all new curb, street, okay?
Storm drains.
Jim and Rod and I walked that, and then I was there when I don't know what, an engineer survey or whatever, but he had a huge pile of leaves and branches from out of trying to get into those, storm sewers.
Oh.
And it was just cold, it was a really cold day. But, so you can get the plans, but can we tentatively, can we vote to go ahead with it until we see the plans?
You can send the plans to.
Yeah, I can send them to Jim in the morning.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
Anyone wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the plans for Sixth Street paving.
Scott Hanson made the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Larry seconded it, Ross?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Scott? And Larry?
Aye.
All right, is there anything else?
I don't have anything else, unless you guys have anything else?
I don't think so. League of Municipalities meeting, you guys will be there?
We will be there, yep.
And that's what days? 23rd, 24th?
Yeah.
24th, I believe, is the Monday.
4th and 5th.
You'll get the, Matthew will be there, I won't be there for that.
Thanks a lot, Rod,
All right,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next two things are ordinances that we have, I've asked Teresa to work on them. And the first one is the CRA, and that was to increase the membership from 5 currently to 7. And the reason was that we thought it would be easier to get a quorum with 7. We thought we'd have a chance to get a couple of council members on that committee. And it's ready to go. When I was elected to the council about 11 years ago, this is our code book. And if you guys have read your code, did you get a code book? Did you get a code book?
I did.
You got mine.
But I wasn't very familiar with the code book until I was given the job as the mayor of appointing the committees. And Lee can correct me, because I'm probably gonna be wrong on a lot of these things, but the municipal code of the city of Wakefield, this booklet was adopted, or was done in 1982. The other one I had looked at was 1981, and there has been an update, current through ordinance number 5, 2014, passed 7/9/14. So what we've done is we've made additions to this since 1981, but a lot of this has remained unchanged. There's 12 chapters. They're arranged the same manner as the revised statutes of the state of Nebraska, right?
Probably.
That's what it says in the index. But in this, there's 12, they call them chapters in one spot. And so there's 12 different chapters. And when you go to fill the vacancies or fill the boards, because we're fortunate to have a lot of boards that are doing a lot of work. Sometimes they're not meeting and we need to get them to meet. And sometimes they're doing work and maybe they're working too hard, but that's just one person's opinion. But standing committees, we have 6 standing committees listed here, and we actually added one back about 5 years ago, and that was a grant review committee. And it's not listed here, but we did add a grant review. The reason we added it, we felt like we had applied for some grants that we didn't get, and we thought we would at least like to look at the grant that I think the Norfolk office was sending those in, and we didn't have a chance to look at them as a council. So we did have a grant review committee. But then we go to and I'm not gonna bore you with all this, but there's 22 pages of committees here. And when I went to appoint the committees a year ago, I found out that a lot of our committee appointments that we had in place did not follow the ordinance, the commission, the ordinances, whatever it is. But the library board, I learned a lot about the library board. But we've got one member in the library board that shouldn't be on the library board because she doesn't live in Wakefield. But she's a very good member, and so we left her arm there. That's one of our deficiencies. We've got one member on that board that doesn't live in Wakefield, and the ordinance says she needs to. She's very good at what she does. But on the library board, there's 2, which means that we're talking about commissions and boards. And then the 201 is the library board. And on the library board, there are, I can tell you, 4 articles. And it's one type page and about 3/4 of the second one, or the half of the second one. The second board that we have is the Board of Health. That's 2-202. And we didn't have a Board of Health meeting last year, even though it says that we have to have a Board of Health. And the Board of Health is the mayor, the president of the council, a physician, medical advisor. So Ross filled, as president of the council and medical advisor, he could fill 2 spots. And then we should also have the law enforcement officer, which is Donovan Berkman. But I didn't know all this until it was time to appoint it. And then we knew last year we didn't have a board because we didn't meet. But I think we had one meeting this year and it was a valuable meeting. And Donovan is our secretary, and I asked him today at the police review if he had gotten the minutes in, and he said he hadn't. But he's gonna get the minutes in. And there's a lot of things that that Board of Health can do, but there is an ordinance that we need to have a Board of Health. Because we have a city administrator, he is also on that board. Now, I'm sure this was written before they had a city administrator. Because when I appointed it, I didn't see that they needed to have the city administrator on it. And then thank goodness Jim showed up at the meeting, and I looked at something way in the back of the book, and it said, if you have a city administrator, he needs to be on the Board of Health. And that board probably isn't necessary unless we have an outbreak of mumps like they had in what county? Knox? It was Knox. With 80 cases, and you have the police person, because he puts up the quarantine signs that you're quarantined. And if you look at the coronavirus, if we had something as terrible as that, it would be an important thing to have. And it's also important to have it in case of an emergency like a tornado and those types of things in the aftermath of that, especially with taking care of people as far as water and showers and those types of things. Julie Rother is our last member, and she's with Northeast Nebraska Health, and she was very happy to serve on it, and so we had that one. Then the next board that we have, and the Board of Health is simply one article. There's a long paragraph that describes what we were supposed to do. There's a hospital board, and I'm sure that that's outdated. That's 2-2003, and that's now the Care Center Board, right, Russ?
Yes.
And it's simply got one article, which paragraph about like that. Then we've got the Board of Park Commissioners, and that's 204. And that's got basically one page of things that we need to do. And then we've got the Cemetery Board, and the Cemetery Board is 2-205. And the board shall have the power to appoint a suitable superintendent of the cemetery and to hire other necessary employees to fix their compensation and to remove their appointees at their pleasure. All actions of the board will be subject to the review and supervision of the governing body. And thank goodness we've had good caretakers out there. Sandy out is retiring, if you're aware of that. But it tells us who should be on the board. There's 6 members and so on and so forth. And with this board, we're going to try to do a history of the board, because the first person, the land of the board was given in about 1981, and the first 3 acres were given by Philo Graves. Prior to that, in 1888, Philo Graves had 3 children that died before the age of 7. He and his wife, Alta. In the Seedlings in a Shoebox, one of our local people wrote that deal, a little history of Wakefield. It says that he's buried in a different cemetery than where they're actually buried. They're buried in Floyd Cemetery. Janelle and I went to the other cemetery out by the mall, and we walked through that thing probably 10 times. We walked miles and miles, which was good for our health, but we didn't find the graves. And then we did find them in Floyd Cemetery. So they're buried at the Orchard in the cemetery at Floyd, and it's out by Jolly Time Popcorn, out in that area by the McDonald's and the Flans Electronics, if you know where it's at. But anyway, their kids died. They had no place to bury them in Wakefield, because they died before 1884. And the first burial in the Wakefield Cemetery was the infant son of Mr. and Mrs. J.W. Cook. This was in 1884. 3 acres had been given by Philo Graves, and later on the city bought 5 more acres from Philo Graves. But it tells us who's supposed to be on the board, how many, and so on. It also has Cemetery Board Perpetual Care Fund, Special Care Trust. So if you have somebody buried out there, you can, as I understand it, you can put money down that grave's going to be given some extra care. And then it's got Cemetery Board donations, so there's actually 3 sections to that. There's also a housing authority, which has not met since I've been on the council, I don't think, has it, Jim, or at least in the last 5 years? But we do appoint people to the housing authority, even though they haven't had any activity. Then there's the tree board. Starts out with definitions, so on and so forth, and creation and tree board, and it's got a lot of duties. They decide what trees can be removed. Then we have the Community Redevelopment Authority, and that's 2-210. There's also ordinance number 378, and this one is signed by Terry Baker, the council president at that time, and it's attested to by Gene W. Fisher. It was in 1994. And I think this alludes to the fact that Gerald, you said that was about when it was created, either you or Terry. Were you on the council at that time?
I don't think it was yet then.
But this is a long way of getting to this, but
But
this
that's
is,
about the time CRA was started.
it's when CRA was started, but I thought maybe you were on the council then, but. And it created the Community Redevelopment Authority. Officers, 5 persons, 3 of whom shall be members of the Wakefield City Council, and 2 other interested persons shall constitute the authority. And then it's pretty much the same as what we have now. And the reason that I wanted to change it to 7 members is because I thought we could, because at one time they were having trouble getting a quorum a few years back. And I thought this might give them a better opportunity to get a quorum, and also it would give us a person to have at least, a chance to have at least 2 council members on the authority. So if Val would choose not to run for council, again, she would be on this, she's on a 5-year term, so she would be on it, but if she doesn't run for council, we wouldn't have a council representative. So that is my rationale in trying to change that one. And I could read this whole thing, but I think most of you, the way it sounds, don't really want me to read the whole thing. But the first year I appointed the committees, it was terrible because we were violating so many of the rules on the appointment of committees. If you're on planning and zoning, you can be on only one committee, planning and zoning. One member of planning and zoning can be on the group that has the hearings for the planning and zoning.
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment. But you can't be in any other committees. If you're on the library board, you have to live in town. Steve Grieve was appointed to the park board, but we caught that right away. He was only on for a month, and they found out that he lived out of town. He was out. But it was quite an eye-opening experience. I want to be sure to read one more because Jim Clark's, we want to make sure Jim knows that his depot committee is in here. The depot board, it's got a little short paragraph, they can have 12 members, and that's what he usually has. And it's got the planning commission and so on and so forth. We've got a small business incubator board, and it's got the articles. There actually are 5 articles. We've got our CAC, our sales tax committee, LB 840. And it goes on, 3 pages, and that's it. Okay, we don't have an ordinance that I was ever given that pertains to the small business incubator board. I found that one. It's got 6 articles, but before this, I didn't have any of that. We have a city safety committee, right, Mike? There's no ordinance for the city safety committee. We now have a civic center board. We don't have an ordinance in this booklet yet. There's American Disabilities Act Compliance Committee. We don't have an ordinance there. And I think that we need to be consistent and get this so that we open this book, it's right there in black and white, and we know where we stand. Because with the park board, the ordinance that I read said that the park board shall have, just like the cemetery board, that they will have the people, they'll be overseeing the people though. They oversee all recreational facilities. So that's where we're at. But I think we need, I don't know if we need to update our whole code book. Jim?
Sure, a lot of it needs to be updated.
And get it, and the format on these committees, one has articles, one has sections. I mean, they're not consistent. And this one just has, the citizen advisory just has numbers, no articles, no sections, so they're not the same. But this is my frustration. You found out why we'd like to add people to the CRA. The original one, the council that originated this, thought we should have 3 members. Why can't we have 3 members?
Because
It's a quorum, so that doesn't work. But it was always 1 member of the council up until it got changed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, just to say that you could have 5 members. And there's no mention of having a council member. So I thought it was important to have at least a council member. If you had 7 people, you could have an easier chance to get a quorum. And you would have representation that could report to the council and help with the conversation there and the communication. The park board, we appointed, I've lived in the park, I've worked in that dang park about all my life, and I enjoy doing it. And most of the time I'm motivated by people that are dead and gone, that were dedicated to it. I'd also like to hope that down the road somebody's gonna use it. or somebody present day uses it. But I worked for 25 years for nothing, and I enjoyed it. And then Terry Nichols was on the city council, and he felt sorry for me. So he made a motion that they pay me $500. And that combined with the $500 I got for coaching seven teams one year, but 5 teams, you know, I was very much appreciative of that. The next year the budget was short and they cut the $500 out. And so I didn't take care of the park for the first 2 weeks, so they came down and begged me to do it. And then it grew to 600, then it grew to 800, and then it grew all the way up to 1,600. And then Mike Mogus made the motion that we raise it to 3,000. And hopefully I've done a good job down there. But nonetheless, my thoughts, I care about the park a lot. When I was elected mayor, I wanted to make sure that I didn't let the fact that I think Graves Park is really important, I didn't want that to be a bias of mine. So I tried to appoint a park board, which I thought would be a good park board. We had 3 people committed to softball and Little League baseball and little kid stuff on the park board. We had 3 committed to the pool. 2 of them have been pool managers. One was the person that was answering, along with Nick Eckberg, was answering most of the calls for our EMT, the rescue calls. So that was a good background to run the pool. We had 3 people that were involved in baseball on the big field, and some of those overlapped, and we had 3 people that were involved in the football field. And then we had 3 people that had shown through their efforts to care for the park itself. And we had 12 members, and I thought we could have each of those in a little committee, and we even assigned the trail entrance, we assigned the camper pad area, and I thought it was a great organizational deal that we had gone to. And it was a big flop. And I felt bad about that. We couldn't get members coming to meetings, and the consensus, I talked to Scott, who was the park board, and Ross, we thought it would be more manageable if we cut it down to fewer members. Is that right? Because we couldn't get a quorum of the dang meetings. The second thing was, we thought we had these 3 people that could really, I've been on the park board for a lot of years, and Jim been there every time I've been there. But we were having a little bit of trouble hiring adults at the pool. It had been under the management of kids, high school, senior, and we had problems as far as they gave swimming lessons, but they didn't pay the fee that they were supposed to pay to use the facility, right, Jim? We had more concessions coming in than if they would have sold them, that we didn't have the receipts didn't show up. Nikki talked about buying, maybe purchasing a better cash register for better record keeping. So this isn't something I just came up with out of the blue that we thought we needed. Maybe we could go in a different direction, and I thought I found 3 people that would be really good there. Well, then after I'd appointed them, we find out from Teresa that you can't really appoint them because you can't really have them in charge of the pool because the city manager's in charge of the pool. Or in the case where before that, it was actually, I think it was Kathy Skinner who was probably as much in charge of the pool as anybody, weren't they, Jim?
You did the hiring.
She did the hiring, and now Zach, that went over to Zach. But I could give you a whole story about what goes on at the pool, but I don't know much about it because I don't really go up there very often unless my granddaughters are in town. But this is one for instance, and my wife is usually, you know her, she's a lot nicer person than I am. But she had our grandkids up there and they wanted to go down the dang slide. Well, the slide was closed. Not open. So after a couple of hours, Janelle went over and said the grandkids would really like to go down the slide. There's a great chance you can open it. And the pool manager, who was on her computer, was sitting there with one of the guards. No, we can't open it today because she has heat exhaustion. Now, she didn't go home. She was still getting paid, I assume. But she had heat exhaustion. And then Janelle added, because she knew that we had asked them to park their vehicles on the other side of the park road so that the drop-off area would be clear for people dropping off kids in the rocky little area there. And her car was parked right next to the pool. And Janelle just said, well, I thought you were supposed to park your car over there. So our pool manager slammed down her laptop, stormed off, said, I suppose I could take care of that slide, but I'm going to go move my car first. We had a meeting up there that she knew we were going to have, and this is honest to goodness truth. Jill Imcool said, come here. And it was before the pool opened, so we walked into the women's restroom. There was toilet paper, there were paper towels, the stools hadn't been flushed. This is right before opening. They've got a list. They're supposed to clean that. At the end of the day, they're supposed to check it, make sure it's clean before the pool opens. City employees were up there vacuuming the pool because the guards couldn't. We had guards that don't want to go back because they didn't like some of the people. In my opinion, there were problems that could have been solved. But I'm told that we can't do that because it's not something that we should do. I would like to change the ordinance, but if we don't change the ordinance, I would like to get this updated so the next poor soul that becomes the mayor of Wakefield can look at this and make his appointments and know what he's supposed to be doing. Because this is very inexact. Period. There, I'll not talk about the pool anymore. Now, I don't care if we pass either of these, but if we pass the one, we would like to have the park board try to manage the pool. We're gonna hopefully have 3 members in the park board. It's gonna be 1 city council member. It's gonna be Mike Clay, who's football, school, and baseball, and park. And the 3rd person that we had on there, I can't remember who it was. They can look. But anyway, we'd like to have 3. And keep the same people we had last year, except put them on, not on the park board, but on a subcommittee working with one of the 3 people that will be on the board. And I would like to let Teresa Soderberg, who is an EMT that along with Nick Eckberg, she gets some kind of an award for answering calls. And then it would be Mike Clay is the other one, and then it would be, the 3rd one would be one of the council members, one of these 2 fellows. That's what I'd like to see happen. I'm 72 years old. If it happens, I think it would be a good thing for the community. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time up there floating and paddling. But I would like to at least have an opportunity to try it.
So are you talking about a pool board or a park board?
Park board, with one of the members would be Teresa Soderberg, and she would have her committee to take care of the pool. It'd be Mary Brudigan, we would hope, and Jill Limcool.
So what's the chain of command here? Is it park board and then city employees or?
Up until Lowell Johnson got it changed, it was the park board was in charge of the pool. The city manager was in charge of the mowing and the maintenance down there. Prior to that, the city manager didn't have to worry about the park because the park board hired one of those caretakers, and he worked from the time the grass got green until the leaves were all picked up. They changed it so that the city could supervise the people mowing the park, because it went from a park caretaker to the city employees mowing it.
All your appointments were Ross, Mike, and Jill in January. Is that?
I changed it to Teresa Soderberg, and is it Mike, and who was the other one? Ross?
Ross.
That's who it was, yeah.
But the ordinance reads that those 3 people would be in charge of the city employees. That's the way it reads, so that has to be adjusted?
No, those 3 people could be in charge of it because they would be in charge, not the city employees, no.
But that's what it says.
But that's what it says.
No, we don't want that.
Essentially, it'll be my boss, so that
Yeah.
No.
would be my boss.
No.
In the wording, that's what it says.
Yeah, we need to change that so that it's,
Doing work in the park.
well, they mow it
Yeah.
and do, Bob and Paul down the park,
He's under me.
The language that's
under you.
ordinance, whatever it is the one for the park board.
Says all employees of the municipality doing work in or for the municipal park shall be under the supervision and direction of the board.
Right.
That's the same language that was taken out in 1995. And I don't know if we mentioned this to you, Paul, but enactment of this would cause a conflict with the city administrator's statute of ordinance, because it says the city administrator's in charge of all these. So hand in hand, we need to amend that if you adopt this.
Well, but when it was changed, I know when it was changed was when David Stellian served as a year down there, and they wanted the city, they didn't want to hire a park caretaker any longer. That's why it was changed.
Could it say, all employees of the municipality doing work in or for the municipal pool shall be under the supervision and direction of this board?
The city.
Do you really think that Paul and John that goes up there to get the pool ready should be under their
Oh.
direction?
they do that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
You just want the guards and the,
Yeah.
and
We think we could run a better pool.
you just want the pool manager and the guards under the.
That's all we wanted,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
That
can
should
change
say that, I mean, because
That's
otherwise
fixable.
it's
Yeah.
stating
Yeah.
that those people are
And-
my boss if I work in the park.
And on the park, the committees, Mike, I put you on the
I know that.
softball, and I put John on the pool,
Yeah,
because I thought that we'd be able to do that.
well, absolutely, but I saw that ordinance too, it's sent to me, and that's my question is,
We don't want that, no, we
No.
want you taking care of Paul doing what he does and you doing what you do.
absolutely.
The only thing that changes is the pool,
Well,
However,
that
that
just
has to
needs to, that wording definitely needs to change then.
yeah.
So do we have to wait and vote on this next time after it's?
The
reviewed?
problem we have with the, I don't care if we pass either one of them, to tell you the truth anymore. But I am frustrated because I thought at the beginning, in January of last year, we were gonna be able to try it and see if it worked or not. And it didn't work, but we gotta do something with the pool because they gotta hire
Yeah.
guards.
So do you have the ordinance in front of you?
I do.
Yeah.
Where the underlined language says all employees of the municipality doing work in, I mean, you could just say all employees of the municipal pool shall be under the supervision and direction of the.
That's all we need.
Uh-huh.
Does that not include the guys that go up there and
No,
do maintenance?
because
They don't-
they're not employed by the pool, you know, in this pool.
So-
That's what we'd like to
so
have,
do
but I know
you-
Teresa was trying to get it right in.
Well, I just threw that language in that came out, so I knew you were
So
gonna
it's your
have a
fault.
discussion.
No, it's not.
It's your fault I didn't sleep a couple
So,
nights.
so in that board member, or
Those three.
those three would be in charge of the pool hiring?
And they would listen to what the pool committee suggested and approve it.
But it has to be approved by the city council.
Uh-huh, so the three-member, the pool committee would make a suggestion as far as hiring and stuff. Then you three park board commissioners would approve it and send it to the council for final approval.
That's right.
So all complaints would go to, I mean, not saying there are complaints. would
Teresa
not
Sonnenberg
go
would be the
to-
person to contact at the pool. But Jill and Mary and whoever else, if they have somebody else. But the pool to Jill is like the baseball field is to me. It's very dear to her. And I know in my mind, she would do a great job there trying to get a good pool running. She was a pool manager. And Mary was a good pool manager. And I think that they wanna do this. I think we should try it. And if it doesn't work, come back in a year and change it back. But that's my feelings.
So then, like, when they do that, are they the ones that are gonna suggest like the prices and stuff like that?
And they have a
And
whole,
And they would come to us? or-
they have a booklet that's about this thick that they go by, and then that was a pool booklet, manager's booklet, that hasn't, I don't think it's been really used lately, but it's really a very detailed booklet. But they would hire staff, and then you would have to approve the staff that they hire. And Jim would have knowledge of the staff that they hire. And you would do the background check still, right? So, that's what it is. The CRA, we can wait. The pool, the park board, we could wait, but we need to get going on the pool.
You really don't need to even change, adopt this ordinance to appoint you three members to the park board. You can do that under what we have right now.
Yeah,
You know,
But I'm-
because it says just a minimum of three, so, if you don't wanna change that language yet, if you do wanna change it, it doesn't make any difference, but you can go ahead and appoint the park board right away.
okay. So I would appoint if I didn't, I wanted to check with Ross, I haven't had a chance to. Do you have time to be on it, or would you rather Scott be on it?
Should I table that answer another time?
Yes. It has to be one
It's
member of
not
the
me.
council. I know you're all busy, but Scott, you and Ross are on the committee, and then you're both on the park board, or you have been on the park board.
I'm
Is
just
it-
trying to,
Is it, so, just, if I was on that, I don't wanna be getting calls for the pool or anything like that.
You wouldn't.
Cause I have better stuff to be, you know what I mean? That would be,
Now, when your kids are
so
up there
then,
swimming.
so then, is that person that's in charge of the pool, they'll have their number posted and everything, and they know that?
what they're looking at, they've got an adult in the community that I think would be really good, that's interested in doing it.
Yeah.
Being the manager, they've got some kids that would come back that have experience being managers and assistant managers they've got confirmation that they would come back and work at the pool. And I think it would go smoothly. And if they call you, just tell them, call me.
Okay.
Paul, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
You know, this is easier said than done, but this pool problem, that's as old as we are and our kids are.
Yeah.
I remember the first time my wife took our kids to swimming lessons, and the people doing the swimming lessons were more interested in combing their hair and looking at themselves than they were doing.
Yeah.
It caused that old gal to go back and get her life-saving renewed.
Is that right?
It did. And she
That's
but she was ready to take that baby on, but she didn't have to. Carol Clark stepped up.
And Carol was really good, and we asked Carol to be on that committee too.
And actually, I think personally, the key to that pool is to have an adult managing the thing.
And that's what our committee thinks, and I think Jim feels the same way, but
We've
again.
always tried to do that,
Yeah.
but it.
Oh, it's easier said than done,
Yeah.
because sometimes you don't find it. You know, Carol's initials back in the day, and my kids worked for her. She was the PBFH. She was the pool bitch from hell. So, and she'll agree, I mean, she's proud of it.
And I did ask Carol if she'd be on the committee, and she said she couldn't at that time, but.
But
maybe-
anyway, that's
We maybe can twist her, that's a good story. But that's all we want, is a good experience for our kids and a safe experience.
Yeah.
But one of the big issues last year was cell phones.
Well, yeah.
And they wanted to put, you know,
They didn't have that problem in the '70s.
We didn't have some lifeguard certified last year either.
Yeah.
and we had a problem with CPRs and then luckily Brock came over and did it, and that saved us. But irregardless, can we appoint 3 people to the park board and let them have at it with the pool for the time being?
And
One
will
that's
those
not on the
people be in
agenda.
charge of hiring the lifeguards?
The park board would be Teresa Soderberg, and Teresa would be the one that would be looking for the guards, and her people that were gonna help her last year were Jill and Mary. And if we could find one more pool manager, that would give us 4. And there are a couple other ones out there that have expressed an interest, but they do have 2 adults that are indicating that they are interested in managing the pool. They wouldn't be guards, they would be the pool managers.
And really, if you're gonna have one park board member do the, interviewing for the park, for the managers and the lifeguards, you really need to have the park board make the recommendation for the hires. And that's a board issue.
Right.
That then comes to.
Right, and that would be much easier with 3 people than with 12. So I'd like to appoint Teresa Soderberg on the park board, Mike Clay, and either Ross or Scott.
You have to put that on the next meeting agenda, though, it's not on the agenda. You haven't,
I'm sorry. Go ahead and point it. There's no appointments on the agenda this time?
I don't think so. I didn't see it.
Well, I think they're open appointments because we didn't appoint them like we were supposed to in January.
I mean, go ahead and then just put it on the agenda next time. to
What do
be
you mean,
approved.
Paul? They were on the January appointments.
I know, but we had probably wanted, Jill didn't want to do it now, and she would prefer that Teresa be the person, and Mary would prefer that Teresa be
You
the
should
person.
resign and Paul fill the vacancy, that's what.
He didn't make the appointments then, I think. in
Well,
January.
that's what
Yes.
Zach is saying that he did.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Who are they?
Ross, Clay, Jill.
Ross, do you want to resign too?
I wanna talk to Scotty about it first.
Okay.
I don't want to throw you under the bus.
Yeah. Jill should resign if she doesn't want to be on the.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be. So,
So is the park board, as we know it, is that pretty much resolved at this point?
they're all on the board still as committee members, but not on the board.
There's only one, only a 1-year appointment, Ross. It's only a 1-year appointment, so everybody's done until they're reappointed.
So everybody's on the committee, but not necessarily the board.
Really, the park board should have its own policy and draft its own committees and who they want, that should be in a park board appointment. I mean, his recommendations for that are fine, but the park board itself should do that.
Well, last year, like for the park, we had Steve Gree on the picnic area. We had Ross, Steve Reed, Ginger Nixon. I thought we had, people that were interested in doing that. Heidi Brown, who could be on that one and the softball, he was on it. And Ross hung new nets on the basketball court, stuff like that. And all these committees, there's a lot of things that seem trivial, but and I think we need our ordinance for American Disabilities Act compliance. Because Gary Hansen was on that. We had a committee last year, but they didn't meet the whole year. And Gary gave me a piece of paper he said he had it in his room, and when I went up to see if he'd be on it again this year, he gave me that piece of paper. And one of the things was to have a cut of the speed bump by the pool because he about tipped over there. Now, I wouldn't have known that. Mike didn't know that, but Mike went up and cut a section so that Gary could get through there without tipping over. Gary said that we have to scoop that, where to push the button to cross the highway to the clinic, because after one of the snows, there was a big pile of snow out there and he couldn't get to the button. He said there's a big drop off on the road, the park road that goes from the press box to the concession stand. He said if a kid on a bike or me in my wheelchair or Mrs. Goss would go in there, they wouldn't, that he would tip over and they might not find him if it's later on in the day. And he wanted to get the painting done out at the barber shop or the beauty shop out on where Stan McAfee is. Because there's deals in the wall that say handicap parking, but he said people don't leave the sidewalk open because it's not painted, but the curb cut is there. The only place he can get to the barber shop, he said Marv's, is where the curb cuts are, and he said a lot of times cars are parked in front of it. So he even bought paint and gave it to Stan McAfee, hoping that it would be painted. So now maybe Blake will get him paint, but it was important to him. It's not important to me. But that's the value of the committees, and I think the committees are only as good as the commitment that they have toward the committee. But I do think we need to get our ordinances up to date. So we'll talk later on about what we can do and can't do, and we'll go on with the meeting. Action on Rural 360 Housing Letter of Engagement.
Are we done on CRA too?
Table them both, but I think we do need to get that pool committee working. Can we just do that and tell them to get going? Jim?
Yes.
So and then we'll find out if they have a staff. We'll bring the staff to the park board, and the park board can bring it to the city for approval. Okay? Okay. 360.
I can, this is the letter from Rural Housing 360, it's just a letter of engagement, stating that you agree to work with their program. There should be like a checklist in there of things that you could do, you could offer to do, or you don't have to do. And some of those items I think were,
Curb cuts.
The
Staking out the lot.
Yeah, that type of stuff, but, you can do as much or as little as you want. I think Steve mentioned during the presentation that it's a non-binding agreement. But we need it in place to be able to keep moving forward with the program.
That was the question I had, because, Brady was kind enough to let me meet down at the plant, and he explained that it wasn't binding, but anything that the city could do would be appreciated. And it was like dig water lines, electric, and hookups. Maybe find a lot that we demo a house and we let them buy it, which we've already done with other people. And I think we haven't had what have we done, an auction on all those?
Most of them, yeah.
And they go for $500. One of them, Steve, had the most expensive one, but I think three of them went for $500, didn't they, Jim?
In that area, yeah.
So I think we want to work with them, but when Brady talked to me the first time about that, he said that Michael's Foods is going to contribute $5,000 in equity. And then this housing thing that we're going to sign, it says that they want to get $10,000 for the prospective home owner. And I didn't know if that was binding, that we're supposed to supply $5,000 worth? No. And Brady kind of thought that what's the name of the person that runs it? Is that Steve?
Gilbert, yeah.
That they, at times, he thought they contributed.
Yeah, they have.
They have.
Yeah.
So that's the only question that I had.
Yeah. It depends on their agreements with
Yeah.
different, you know, builders and such, so.
And I felt like, what's the cost of it, 370 or 270?
360.
360.
And it has gone up, but he said he will stick to this since this is what we saw the first time. It's now 3,600, so,
Is it really?
yeah.
A year?
So will that go up next year? You know,
So if they pass this letter of intent, are they also committing to pay that 360 at this time, or is that in the future?
I
I read like we're supposed to commit to pay the 360.
Yeah, I would assume, but
Well, how about council members' comments?
I'm just looking at these, I think we need 30 days to look and see what we wanna provide them, you know? We look at the things on here, do we wanna do trash, or what do we wanna provide them?
I talked to Jim about that, and Jim had some comments, but he said we don't normally provide curb cuts, or the lot, we would possibly have a lower price lot if we have something that we can demo or something becomes available that's vacant. And we don't normally they pay for their own, but there might be some ways that the city can help.
waiving a building permit fee, not the building permit process, but the fee.
The fee.
You know, I think it's fairly minimal, but.
We don't.
Oh, not, you don't, okay. Okay.
It's already waived.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is a
We can
site.
do that.
Yeah.
A site to offload the home while they're getting the lot prepared, the foundation prepared. That was one of the things that it said we could provide possibly. It's a pretty small commitment right now. If we, 3,600 would be a lot bigger commitment. And, do you wanna try it for a year? What are your thoughts?
I
Scott?
think we gotta figure out what we wanna provide them, right?
The way Brady approached me was that it would be whatever we could, with no obligation of anything.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose not to put anything down there, you know, at this point. And they'll just price the homes accordingly, you know, based off of that, so.
When Brady explained this the first place, he said, we're desperate for workers, and this is something we would like to try. And that there's no obligation to you guys, but it'd be appreciated if there's anything you can do for us.
Right.
And one of the biggest things we can't, I mean, you know where we're at with lot inventory.
maybe in the future, that's something that we could work with Michael Bridge about, with that $3,600 cost.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that would be
right
something
now,
it'd be tougher for
With
sell.
it only being $360, I think we need to.
Well, I'd like to at least give them have an opportunity to try their program, is how I feel, but that's just my opinion.
I agree.
You can look at it as a case-by-case situation too,
Can be
and if
different
it's
for each
something
business.
that's gonna cost us too much money, then we're defer doing that. Basically, the new lots and any of the infill lots, have already the utilities there at some point in time, so probably not a big investment. Don't know.
Because, you know, contractors are looking for lots too all the time.
Sure.
Because Seabed, he said he would love to have infill lots,
Yep.
Wakefield too. So, I mean, it's,
Well, that's the thing, if we have an auction, we can't control who
Right.
ends up with it or what the cost is.
right, that's a fair way to go.
My question is, I guess, although this is non-binding, I mean, it does list the community's commitments. You know, and that's where they talk about the trash removal and trenching, but if we aren't going to commit to that, do we strike that from this agreement? Or just move forward?
It's non-binding, so
Yeah.
So you can sign it, doesn't really do anything, it's just.
that's what it says.
I'm not sure that you guys are looking at the right letter. There
Yeah,
was
this-
a checklist.
The second page, it says recap deliverables, and there's community side, and you list whatever the community would choose to give,
There's a
and the rural
different,
housing.
yeah, I don't think we have the one.
I think if we
Okay,
don't
there's
list
a-
it,
There's a different one where you actually check what you're willing to do, an updated one, so.
Okay.
I think we need to get
We
that
can-
checklist and
Yeah.
show what we are gonna do, so we're ready.
Yes.
I guess I would rather leave it open-ended, so you're not committed to anything, but.
Well, Yeah, if it's open-ended, I don't think we have a big problem, is that right? If we don't if we're not bound to do anything.
It's non-binding.
It's
Well,
simply.
like I said, you just don't check anything. On the new one, I think it's all a separate list.
Sign the agreement and pay the $360 and.
Yeah.
And when we sign this, we're not really working, we're gonna work with Brady, but we're not working with Brady, we're working with Steve. Is that right?
Right, and again, the purpose of this is so then he knows how to price these homes. Because if there's going to be some, the lot's free, well then, he's not gonna, that might save him, I don't know, $10 a month or something. But if the lots are gonna cost him $25,000, that's gonna make a difference in that mortgage amount, and he wants to make sure that's reflected on the website. So,
Yeah. And he knows the kind of bind we're in as far as finding lots.
So apparently we don't have the one we need to with the checklist.
I've got the one that, I think, right here. And I've also got all my notes from the meeting with Brady and the meeting where Steve came at the Civic Center, but.
yeah, we can get you the other one, I mean,
Okay,
that's not a
I'd rather wait until we get the checklist and have something we can honor.
Is that all right to do that, to wait till the next meeting?
yeah, I mean, we waited this long, so.
If we have a special meeting regarding rezoning, the sale of property, we could do then too.
Yeah, I mean, we can make sure that you get it, I'll send it over to Zach, so.
So, we wanna bring this back next month then? Okay,
Yep, that sounds good.
it'll be on the agenda then, Jim?
Sure.
Is that what you guys wanna do? Okay, we got the hotel study agreement. And you've all have you got a copy of that?
Sales tax voted to approve that, contingent upon approval from the city council to pay for that initial cost, so.
Sales tax is being paid for.
Also, I seen in the CRA minutes that they were willing to pay for that too, right? CRA, somebody's minutes,
There already
Yep.
was discussion about it.
yeah, that they're,
They would support the project,
they
Larry.
would support it too. So if we had two groups that could split it,
That's where it kinda gets muddy, is because then who is gonna be the contract with? And that's why we chose to go to one entity. And sales tax is supposed to be there for economic development, and that's why.
Seemed to fit sales tax a little better, actually, than CRA.
Because it was discussed as CRA previously.
Okay. Why wouldn't Wakefield Progressives be the one?
Because we don't have the money to do that.
Cause it, to have the city of Wakefield declined. I kinda,
It's no different than the downtown redevelopment plan. That,
Okay.
has there
it's
ever been a study done for a motel?
not in Wakefield, not that I'm aware of,
Walter didn't do one with his.
not that I'm, if he did, he's not gonna share it with me.
This would be something that the city could provide for anybody who would wanna be interested in.
And if it comes up positively, we can recruit with it.
Yep, get investors, get,
Well, and that's the first question you would, of the people you've talked to,
Absolutely, yeah.
the first question Megan gets is, well, what's your hotel study
Yep.
show, and so.
Did we have some problems with Walters, why he never pursued that, or was it unfavorable to build one here, or whatever happened to that? Because he had a big sign up down there and on the Napa property, and he needed
property where he was gonna build was where the Napa store is. Only thing left is the lot in between that and a tire store, and he told me it was undesirable. And Megan and I have worked on that guy for years. He just, so we gotta go another route and find somebody who would be willing to come in and I think he can get an investment group put together that would help fund this project.
If they knew that it looked favorable, you know.
And you think, it's contract sales tax and everything was good if it would.
Yeah, like I said, that people that you wanna bring to the community wants to see that data, they wanna see that information, wanna know that you've worked and, it's some good solid information and not just I'd like to have you come.
How long is that data feasible for, how long is that?
Couple of years, I would guess.
So too, until there's like a major economic change.
Kinda like your housing study,
Yeah.
3-4 years maybe.
Now, Michael Foods moved out of town, obviously that would impact
Right.
this.
Local town.
Yeah, you know, but if,
I honestly don't think it'd ever really go out of date, it's just however people felt it was relevant. You know, if someone was coming and looking 6 years down the road and felt it was.
yeah, cause some of the
Still relevant.
cost estimates are gonna be, if it is a decade down the road, that's gonna change, cause the cost of materials, the cost of build is gonna be different, but.
I met Walter Ashoff at that, they had their community foundation, trying to organize a community foundation. Where, you wanna go talk to him? You and I?
I would talk to anybody if they'll talk to us. I just wonder what happens.
Well,
I'd like to save $7,000, but if we need to have it, and it's something we need to do, cause I believe we need a motel, but I just shake my head when it's gotta be a damn survey, cause the only people that make money off the surveys are the people that are doing them. And, usually it's common sense, you drive through these other small communities, they have nice little small motels, but most of those are investors locally.
But John and I talked about this from a lender standpoint. A lender, if these people have to go get money from a financial institute, they're gonna want to see something that says that this is gonna work.
It wouldn't necessarily be a requirement, but it'd be beneficial to the
Bank.
cause.
It goes back years ago, when the original, 5 years ago, they're gonna build a Cubby store down there where the existing is, and the loan was ready to go, and then we had problems with the bins, remember the bins there? That were supposed to have been moved when CDA went south of town. If those bins had been out of there, you'd probably have a new grocery store down there, and you'd probably have a motel across the street, if that was the original plans. Remember those days, Jim?
They were.
and, when we talked to CBA, you know what they said, that there's 2 farmers that would like to buy those bins.
Yeah.
And he said, the people that manage in CBA in Wakefield said they would like to have those bins out of there and moved out on this property or out of there, period. So that might be something that we want to be actively pursuing. But when Mr. Eichmeyer was here, Jim, when you talked about, had him speak about an economic development, position at the retreat, remember that, from Seward, had he been the city administrator at Seward?
Yeah.
And in Cherokee.
But I asked a question, I said, would it be desirable, cause he said, the economic development director can go talk to people that the administrator can't because he's tied down to a project going on in town or whatever. And, he said, but an economic development director could go with the administrator and, visit with them, or the economic development person could do that. And then I asked a question, I said, what if the mayor would go, because Mike Loof was the mayor at the time. And he said, his answer was that it would be better if the mayor could go. So I don't think it would hurt us to wait a month and let myself and somebody else set up an appointment and go meet with Walter, whether it be Jim or whether it be another council member.
be Paul and Jim.
And the reason I say that, we've got a lot of things going on. I'd like to see a motel built, yes. I would think that if we're gonna get one built, Walter Ashoff would be one of our best, options. And maybe talk to him, and that way we would know he's gonna just tell us, no, I don't want, I'm not interested. That's what he's been telling you, or he's been telling you to wait, or just not interested.
Gotta
Because
find a
obviously
location,
He
but
wants to be on,
it-
right by
it-
Kobe's, doesn't he?
It's like,
That's what he said.
like Tom and his apartments, he wants to pick the location, and there isn't a good one here, so.
Was he talking about a location out in the 40 acres too?
I offered it, I just said, there's a site out there by Dollar General, and I said, well, see what we can do. He goes, I like the site, but it's not what I want.
What does he want?
He wants to,
Closer to Cubbies.
wants Cubbies again, they,
That's your man.
they manage it basically.
It's a setup like it is in Pender, right across the street, convenient. It can still work. That locate, you know, other motels do it all the time. You call a number, you go pay somewhere, and you get a card to swipe, and you go in the door, so. It is easier, I think, than he's making it out to be, but he's just determined he doesn't wanna get away from that project, but.
Well, we've got so many things going on right now. I don't think it would hurt us to have 30 days and let me go talk to Walter. Wouldn't hurt. We'd find out one way or the other, I think, if he's interested at all. And then if he's not, then I think that we probably would go that route and do a study if that's what we have to do to get somebody else interested.
One of the fortunate things about this particular study in my mind is that it's a two-phase. You know, so they do the first phase of the study for $3,500, and it doesn't look like it's even worth doing the second phase. I think you don't do it.
They're gonna go all the way.
Unless you wanna put the option in to do the first phase only, see where we're at.
I think you need to go talk to Walter and figure out where we're at, and if Walter says he's not interested, we need to go to the next step and take it on our own. Those surveys, you know, how
You
they.
think it'd be beneficial if you wouldn't talk to him, because Fitzgerald's talking that much?
I talked to him that night and had a good visit with him, and he was all fired up about trying to make Osmond a better place. And I think he's been fairly positive as far as trying to help small communities. I don't think it would hurt.
I think get that done in the next 30 days, and then if it doesn't work out, let's go with the study then.
That's what I think we should do. What do you think, Larry?
I agree.
Ross?
Okay, take one.
For a month? Unless we have a special meeting after we have a meet with him and for some other reason, we can have a special. All right.
I think it's good to get it done if we don't have the option with them, let's go ahead and go do it.
It's good we got people interested in making the town better. That's a good thing. Approval of application to join volunteer fire department.
Oh, missed one.
Oh, what'd I miss?
16.
That is 16 on my sheet.
Oh, well then go back to 15.
Approve hotel study agreement.
No.
That's Fridays.
That's, well,
Civic
there's
Center
another one in
manager.
there.
Oh, the Civic Center manager.
Right.
Okay, Val, you take off of that one.
Well, you know, there's been enough issues that we, as a board, really feel we need to have someone that is, in charge of the civic center. And some of the committee has worked hard on a job description, which the board has approved and is attached to your stuff. And last month I warned you that we would be asking you for an approval, and Teresa also, was good enough to come up with an appropriate resolution that you could choose to act on or begin to act on to make that happen.
Oh,
Okay? Do you want more?
you guys probably know what's going on better than I do, but you want a manager, and I saw there's a lot of reasons why. I read that. I think we just need comments from the council. Larry?
I'm for it just 'cause benefits we'd get, 'cause we need somebody to be in charge of that facility and promote it and be there to operate it. When we have a event going on, and there's a lot of communication, you know, going back and forth. It's just, we need one.
How's your committee working?
All right. But we're not managing it whatsoever. You know, Nikki's still stuck uptown, taking the reservations, trying to juggle the things that need to be juggled, and right now, MFI is using it a great deal, and that's wonderful, that's great. But again, that takes some management. We need to make sure that, the person cleaning knows and gets down there and gets things tended to if they're using the restrooms. Another example is we did a walkthrough the other night, and in the mechanical room, you know, where the security camera and stuff is, there's a whole pile of stuff that was there from the beginning of the, some of it's tools, some of it's 5-gallon buckets of
It's cleaned up
probably
by now.
paint,
It's
huh?
cleaned up, it's all cleaned up now.
It's gone?
Yeah.
Cleaned
You
and
moved it all?
organized.
Well,
Yeah.
there, but things like that, how long is it, you know? And then the city guys had to come do that. We have some issues like, one of the bathroom stalls has had possibly a wheelchair run into the wall.
Repaired.
And it's dinged, and that had to be repaired. You know, so it's somebody to stay on top of this. There's painting, there's been some repairs as the building settled, there were cracks, those needed to be tended to. It would be nice to have somebody to do those kinds of things. After one event, there were some, Jello shots with alcohol left in an open refrigerator. That cannot happen. So we need somebody to keep an eye on some of those kinds of things. To be able to say, when we're dealing with, I know, Jello shots, holy buckets, lots of them. And I didn't take one, I took them all back. There have been some other issues, like when somebody rents, to have somebody check and say, no, we need to hold some deposit. There were some issues, you know, things like that we can't expect Nikki to run down there and check after every event. We need to get this smoothed out a little bit. I had a message on my home phone from Sherry. I don't know what it's about, but she'll be there till 2 tomorrow. Well, I maybe will get her call tomorrow. So I don't, you know, things like that. We need to have somebody, I think, a little more in control. And, you know, making sure that when an event is over, at 12:30, everybody's honestly gone, and we can't expect our local police to do that. You know, and if somebody's setting up for a wedding, to make sure somebody shows them where all the stuff is, all the tables, all the chairs, and explains that what has to go back, what we will do, what they won't, and it's written down, but doing it personally makes a big difference. You know, we want it to be a facility that's welcoming and ready for everybody, and used.
Thank you. Scott?
I mean, obviously, how many hours are?
We put down the minimum of 10.
Yeah, per
Would
week.
They have to be in the building.
$15 per hour.
And we do have the money
Sure,
in
the
the
events
budget.
would help cover that cost, wouldn't it?
Well, we still have the money in the budget. We planned for a few things.
I think it's good, I think, just to help overall.
Should have somebody to promote it, as manager should be able to promote it too, you know, a little bit.
Like Megan brought up they were having a bridal fair in Sioux City. If there was a manager, maybe they would have taken care of it.
Anything else, Larry? Ross?
What comes to mind, I know that the Civic Center Board has put in a lot of hard work here last year, so trying to get everything off the ground, so it makes sense.
Nikki, I wanna ask how you feel about it.
That would be great.
All right, you wouldn't complain if they do this.
Oh, no.
Somebody needs to introduce the resolution.
We just wanna get rid of it.
The resolution number is 3/2020. If someone would like to introduce the resolution and move to pass.
I would introduce that resolution, move to pass.
Second.
So Val and Scott. I need to read the resolution. A resolution to create the position of Wakefield Civic Center Manager. Whereas the Civic Center Board has determined that the smooth and orderly operation of the Wakefield Civic Center requires the services of a manager. And whereas the Wakefield Civic Center Board has prepared a job description for a manager position that would enhance the use and efficiency of the Wakefield Civic Center. And whereas the City Council of the City of Wakefield, Nebraska finds that it is in the best interest of the community of Wakefield and its environs to establish the position of Wakefield Civic Center Manager to improve and enhance the mission of the Wakefield Civic Center. Now there be it hereby resolved by the mayor and the council of the city of Wakefield that we will create that position. You ready to vote? Larry?
Aye.
Ross? Val?
Aye.
Scott? Okay, now what do we have to do? Just sign it? The next agenda item is the approval of an application to join the Wakefield Volunteer Fire Department, which is always a good deal when we can do that. Have we got someone that's here to do that?
Nope, I missed the last meeting too.
Adam's not here.
Adam's not here, but we do have a name, don't we, Jim?
Elijah
Pastor.
I guess he lives in Dean's Ellen's old house, Dean Close.
Yeah.
He's new to town.
Be the continuance of a firefighter out of that residence.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many EMTs we get out. What have we approved? About 10 of them in the last 2 months? It'll be interesting in a year to see how many EMTs we get trained, because that's what we need.
I
Is it-
vote we approve that application.
You make a motion, we approve it?
Second.
And Ross seconded it. Scott?
Aye.
Larry, Ross?
Aye.
And Val. All right, good. Okay, number 17. 18, I'm one behind, because I didn't put on there the civic center manager. But this came about because I was kind of disgusted because we got blindsided a couple of times late. And Megan and I had a good discussion. I don't think it's a problem. It's just that if there's something big, she'll try to get it to us earlier, right? So unless you guys think it's something we need to look at changing.
Just by law, you gotta have a 24-hour, a minimum of 24 hours.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just that if we got something as big as that one seemed to be, and I think it was a fact that you thought somebody else was gonna notify us, and from the sounds of it, so I think we can just table that if you guys are all right with it. Mayor's public comment period. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Mike?
You want me to give a 20-minute history
No.
on something?
I would. I'd rather have you speak.
How did you know I was gonna ask that? No. There was a water main break last week at First and Maple. If anyone saw that. When the weather warms up, we'll put good dirt back into there and to top it off, where the sand is in there, and plant some grass. Nursing home's been having some issues. We have a valve that's leaking in their west addition, and we can't seem to find any valves that shuts that water off. We can shut water off everywhere in that nursing home except for that area, so, we even went down there and looked at some blueprints today, and there was nothing more than just saying there was a 2-inch pipe leaving the building, that was it. So, hopefully it's, somewhere on the terrace, it's covered in snow that we can't see, and our metal detectors aren't picking it up, but we have nothing on maps, to show anything, and in order for us to actually, if it's an emergency, we can, but we'd shut down a lot of houses in an emergency, but we just don't wanna go and shut down 40+ houses just to see if it's gonna turn off this valve here, when we can possibly wait. It's just a drip right now, so it's nothing terrible, but it's just, something that they need to repair, sometime. I don't think it's an emergency right now. Just so you're aware that if you see us up there and walking around, that's what we've been doing. The light plant fire alarm system has been replaced and is operational. They finished it up today. And it is monitored now as well. And then I'm gonna be getting some GPS equipment to update our utility maps. Current maps that we have are from 1964. So, we'll be mapping curb stops, water valves, manholes, storm sewers, and the underground electrical. And if that can all be loaded up onto a tablet and to a computer, and it can be printed if needed, but, it's pretty tough right now. Well, we see it with the nursing home, we we don't know if there's a curb stop somewhere or not, but we have no way to find that right now with the weather, you know, with the ground cover the way it is.
So the GPS should only find the ones you already know that are, you've already located. You can find the ones that are not, like mine.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. We would have to actually get into your house, and we've talked to you about that, and hook onto something, because I think it's not plastic.
Probably copper.
Yeah, it's copper going out, and we can trace that outside, so then we can get.
Yeah, I know about kind of where it was at, but it's buried, I'm sure, a couple feet of dirt probably.
Sure
but
could be. I know, the house up from you,
Where's
Lundin
Lundin?
was 18 inches in the ground, but
Pete Lundin.
we still got the, hit on it. We haven't got.
Not
anything
mine.
here,
So that's how your GPS will work, you'll go inside the houses? and-
No, the ones that we know of, we'll just sit there right on top of that, and it'll get a GPS signal, and then it'll show a map of Wakefield, like a satellite map,
Okay.
and it'll have a blue dot right there, and say, this is the area it's in, so if we need to go shut off that water, all we need to do, instead of looking at a little square with a line going out with a circle, that might not be there from 1964 in our map, we'll have an actual map and show, and it comes in probably an area this big is what it'll get us, that GPS.
Big
So they
save,
can
time
have-
saving.
Yeah, very, very much time saving, and it just brings us up, you know, into.
So the plan is to do every place around
Yeah,
town?
everywhere, yeah.
Cause like ours is somewhere in the south. and
Yeah, we
you
found
can't-
yours actually. We
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
But when we went a couple years ago
That's
and
where that
marked
red
them,
line was?
that's a blue line.
Well,
Blue line on the curve,
Curve, okay.
but those are getting fade, so, you know, we can go do that, but, and this is something that you can get somebody else to do, but I want us to do it, so we become more familiar with that, our system as well.
And you've got that guy lined up to do the curb stops on Winter Street?
Yes, he's lined up.
He'll be coming as soon as the
Yeah.
weather cooperates, he'll be ready to go?
Yeah.
Good. New truck works good?
Haven't really used it much, except for to get some,
Cross your fingers.
salt. I think we went and got some salt from, the state a few weeks ago, that's about it, yeah, so far so good.
Thanks for scooping that snow by the button on the highway.
No problem.
I saw it was scooped.
do we need to, curb stop thing, do we need to let the homeowners know that those are gonna be tended to, so they know why you're out there digging? Can we do that?
Oh, when we're doing the locates and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
probably wouldn't hurt
I
to
don't-
put something in the
hopefully we can
paper.
do it, but yeah,
Well,
we can-
you
we
know, if they're
definitely
gonna put
do
those
something.
rods, you know, you may.
Oh, out
The
in
rods,
Winter
yeah,
Street.
Winter Street.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
talking Winter
definitely,
Street.
definitely,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I thought you meant while we were just
Oh.
marking stuff.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
no,
that'll be
definitely.
online, they'll watch it all.
No, we definitely will do that.
Take a little more time to explain things more thoroughly.
Oh, my God. Any other questions?
For 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes at least. I'll
Turn
think
around,
that
face
was-
the camera, explain it again.
No.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Jim?
That won't take 20 minutes either. Sales tax, good month, $16,091.44, so, good start on our, yearly income. Monthly average is around 157. Good news there. Some updates on, legislative bulletin. Couple items of interest, to support. These are again, information that the League of Municipalities sends us every week, updates on our legislation in, LB 242. Actually, will be possibly some new funding for water wastewater projects. That's a little bit of good news and excitement. There was some opposition to a couple, new legislation for LB 690 and, 1046. It basically says, this could affect, municipal budgets. Hearings on these bills are designated to restrict the, municipal ability to manage budgets and limit cable TV revenue, so, a couple of things we'll have to watch there. Last one is LB 1072. that was a request from, our local NRD. One of the things that they have trouble with is funding. They get, certain commitments and tax dollars, but when they have to do a project, they have to go to the bank, borrow money. That costs a lot more money than they wish to spend. So what they're asking for is the legislature to allow them to bond projects, larger projects, of course, probably levies and everything else. So we are supporting that, and we'll watch that as we go down the road a little bit here as well. Levy update, waiting for 2 items. We did send them the money, the wire of our share of that reconstruction effort. We're waiting for a deed and a permit from the Department of Roads to be able to use the side roads by the bridge. There'll be 2 accesses there for the contractor to get down from the highway to the actual trail where there's a couple washouts. So once we get that, we ought to be in pretty good shape to get moving on that. The Corps did release what they do, it's called environmental impact. That is one of the things they do. They have to take public comment on that, so that's not due until the 4th or 5th of March. So hopefully after that point in time, they'll be able to go out for contract and get started on the repair of that. Put down the employee retirement benefit plan. We've been diligently working on that. There's been some movement on it. We've had some conference calls and a lot of frustration. We're probably out about, 8 or 10 payroll, 10 checks that were with us as employees are missing the opportunity to put funds into our retirement fund. It's a real point of frustration. We're close to getting this done. They submitted a VCP. That's a report to the IRS saying, hey, we've done something wrong, we're gonna fix it, and if you guys are okay with it, we'll move forward with that. So that's part of the legal responsibility to get that done. Our priority is to get engaged with a company, Principal Finance, to get a retirement program up and running. So we'll get a couple of those things cleared out. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have some positive news from the IRS and from the attorneys working on this situation where we can go back to the employees and say, we're gonna have this thing up and running here. I'm hoping at the latest by the end of the month.
So the IRS hasn't signed off with the plan, that the plan is okay yet?
On this current one, yes.
So we have more legal documents that need to be.
That document has been sent to the IRS. That was sent in to them Monday.
So it's mailed in?
They fax it actually and send it in to them. And they have a chance. They've been in contact with the man's name is Patrick, and the attorney's working with this guy, and he has to have his supervisor approve this, and then gets back to the attorney.
So is that with the healthcare center as well?
They are working on the same.
But have you got yours?
Same attorney.
You're in the same position, you're waiting for the IRS to sign off?
I don't know if we're as far down the road as.
I think we're ahead of the game.
So if they sign off on it, then what do we do? What's our obligation, Jim? Do we have money to pay you guys that you lost on that?
Well, the employees have their share,
Right.
that's a donation, plus the city does a match on that, so, yes.
So what are you missing? Our match you're missing?
And what we put in. So
Right.
since this stopped, it's been over $1,600 that I haven't put into.
So it was in your check and you're paying taxes on instead of going to retire.
Right.
So yours is 1,600,
That's what mine is.
but are there other employees that were with us longer than you were?
Yep.
That'll be
All
more?
of us are, all the full-time employees have been, contributing to this retirement fund, so
But
there's
it had,
seven.
it's 7 people, right? So you could be talking upwards of $20,000-$30,000?
Oh, we are estimating about $1,200 to $1,400 a pay period, of money not going in to,
And you've missed how many pay periods?
8.
8 going on, well, we're assuming.
You might have 10 or 12 where you
It
have.
might be 10, yeah. So the issue is, number one is if the new group principal would say, all right, Nikki Decker wants to get caught up and she's gonna write a check, will he take that? We don't know that yet.
Oh, you don't know if it can go into your retirement?
Right.
But
As a catch-up,
personally, but.
Yeah.
How about our
the
obligation,
city-
though?
Yeah, the city's obligation, I mean, that has to be paid.
Yes, I'm sure once that program is up and running, we'll be able to get them the funds.
So we need to know how much that is, so we don't spend that money.
Then they're losing their earnings if
Yeah, I
that.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
So, big point of frustration, it's been a slow process for us, so, but hopefully moving quicker.
Well, we need to get it caught up and then pay what you lost. How do you guys feel? I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
I was talking to Zach about it the other day, the money that we're not putting, that we would be putting towards your matching fund, is just going into the general fund then, or it's just any money that's not being used that?
Yes.
So it's not something we necessarily have to have budgeted for or anything, because it's there, but we should be able to, once it's all said and done, retroactively catch you guys up, at least on the matching end.
Plus the
We hope-
interest,
we
you know,
hope
what they
the
would earn.
program- We hope the new
We don't
program
know
will,
what we would earn.
yeah, we hope the new
Mine's,
program.
mine's really good, what I really good.
We just hope the program or the new organization will allow that.
I thought he'd go
Say-
home since I took 20 minutes.
say,
I thought-
yes, we can get up and running in today's pay period works, but can you catch us up for, the last few pay periods? So,
I think the consensus there is that we want to do what we need to do.
and we appreciate that. I'm just telling you, it's been slow, it's been frustrating, and hopefully we can knock this out a little bit, so.
Is there a way for Zach, for you to let us know what this pot, how big this pot's gonna be?
I will when the time comes. I am of the opinion that this will take a lot longer than Jim's
Okay.
optimistic about it.
I think it's still a long ways to the end.
Yes.
How about the legal fees for this?
Adding up,
Close to 10,000.
Holy buckets.
and I think Care Centers is higher than that, much higher, so.
More employees.
As the attorney says, it's much harder to undo a problem with the IRS than it is to move forward.
The problem with the care center, we had to pay an attorney to basically go back and figure all this out. So, just to get everything uncovered was what costed the most money, I think, and now we're in the middle of trying to get it fixed.
And you're sticking your hand up and saying, we've made a mistake, we've gone the wrong direction, we wanna fix it. And trying to get that done. So, yep. I skipped an item there, I talked about, water study update, and I gave you some information, here. There's 4 or 5 pages in there, water rates on your desk, for you to look at. All I'm saying is, we're behind as a average, $4 or $5. I've done a little bit, there's an Excel spreadsheet that I have, I can plug in, rates and numbers and come up with just about any number you want to have in there. And I did that just for your review and consideration there. One thing I'm seeing, across the whole state is sales tax. And communities are doing this and it's going well, is when there's a project out there that could affect, and it will affect all of us ratepayers, such as Big Street project or water project or whatever it is, they pass or ask to have passed a half-cent sales tax and say, we wanna take a half-cent sales tax and obligate it to the debt on filter plant. And you use that dollar specifically to keep the water rates lower. Something to think about. Just an idea, and again, I'm seeing this just across the whole state. There's, most communities are 1, 1.5, or 2 cent sales tax. And if they're going with an additional ½ cent, they're pledging those dollars to these types of projects. And again, it offsets the need to say, instead of having a $22 water rate out there, you know, we might have a $19 or $20 rate and being supported by a ½ cent sales tax.
If you put that sales tax on the ballot, can you put continue with one, or?
You have to put it specifically what that need is gonna go for.
But can you give them the option that they're gonna vote in favor of the sales tax that we currently have in effect?
1%.
Or then could you put another option of 1.5 and then they could vote the way they wanna vote? You probably have to go with one or the other, don't you?
I think this, I'll look into it, I'm not sure whether or not we can do that.
I don't think so.
Make it specific, yeah.
Well, our survey showed overwhelmingly that people were opposed to an increase, but they were in favor of continuing the sales tax when we did the survey a couple of years ago.
And I'm just saying is, as a possibility with some good public relations and some PR work out there to say, I know you wanna do this, we need to do a filter plant. We have 2 options. We can raise your water rates to the requested amount that the state's gonna impose upon us, or we could use a sales tax, cent, whatever it is, to offset those costs. Just an option, and I think the more you talk about it, the more people would probably get excited about it.
Did you talk to Tim or Joni Albright about the land bank?
I did, and they've got so many bills ahead of them,
Won't even get to it.
It doesn't look like it in this session, so.
They don't have to be reintroduced
No, they're carryover bills.
this year.
Then it ends up.
Yeah.
I thought Tim was gonna make that as one of his priorities, or his
He
priority.
said it was his priority bill, but I haven't seen it.
I don't
show
think it
up
could
on
have
the
been, or
radar
would have.
screen here yet, but,
I was wondering, so have you talked to either one of those, Joni or Tim?
I had talked to Tim, a week ago, Monday, he called and we discussed some things, so.
Brady said he would write a letter on behalf of, Michael's Foods Incorporated, asking.
For the land bank.
For the land bank, if you could direct him to do that, to write to whoever, that would be.
We can discuss that too. I had Missioner Street on there, you don't need to discuss that, and I think we discussed the, joint defense agreement. That was with Northeast and Wayne on that, if you're good with that. Again, I think the, legal arbitration is past that point, and they're going to, again, petition NPPD to, allow them to build a substation south of Wayne, and we'll have to wait and see, go through our 90-day wait period with that, and then wait and see what the answers of that, how they move forward with, that project as well.
What, Jim, talking about the utilities and things, what did you, for the fiscal year, what did you come up with the savings of Big River over in PPD?
Good question.
You haven't got it figured out yet?
I do, and I can't recall it, and I don't have it in front of you. Wayne's is 170,000. West showed me that. Ours is gonna be probably in the 80 or 90. I can dig that information up for you, Paul, and show that to you.
And we projected it at quite a bit more than that.
And, you know, Wayne was projected at almost $500,000, and we were projecting 300.
Right.
Numbers just didn't come out yet. We expect to see something continue to get better for us over a period of time.
So you think it'll get better down the road? It's still saving money.
It is.
But you think 80 or 90,000?
Yes, and I will I will dig those numbers out, I have them, they're probably in my computer somewhere, but I have it, I can't recall them what they are, be guessing at this point, so.
All right,
That's it.
thanks, Jim.
I was gonna ask you, do we know, are we gonna hear anything from Olson's on their water study
Yes, they'll be here next month.
next month? Okay.
All right, Craig from Lincoln will be here, talk about it, go over that. Hopefully we'll be able to pry out of him, what we're talking about for cost. He is very, very reluctant to tell me anything, what numbers, I said, I'd just like to start looking at budgets and rates and those things, and, he's reluctant to do that, so, he will be here next month, and he'll share the plans, the ideas, again, the pictures, here, that's, pictures of, the plant in Hickman, we'll look at that, hopefully a week from Friday, go down there and.
You don't know how much that one cost you, Jim?
I talked to Silas, who's the administrator there, he said they rolled it, they just built a new city hall and stuff down there, they rolled it all into one project, and they bonded $2.5 million, so,
Ooh.
yeah, so, he wasn't able to pull those numbers out either, so. But that's a similar plant, similar community, and you probably have 3 or 4.
They have 3 filters or 4 filters?
3.
3. And how many do we need?
Well, similar to that, 3 with some growth,
So what you got now, Mike?
I'm gonna guess.
Well, we got more, but it's
Have you looked at that, Mike?
I haven't seen pictures yet.
So, but you're going down to look at the whole, like Mike and John and you, or?
I'll go down and take a look at it, and I told those guys we can send them down at any time, and they can look at the plan as well.
We just need to set it up and we'll go.
You could probably ask questions and find out something maybe they could do better.
Yeah,
or-
what they
Yeah.
wish they would have done differently.
Yep, that's,
So we're on the path then.
I think so.
But you think the study's gonna show that we're gonna need a filter plan and not new wells? Or you don't know what Olson's is gonna recommend yet?
Pretty much they're gonna recommend getting this filter plant up and running. We're adequate water supply, at this point in time. But I think the medium to long range plan would be find another water source, in the next 5 plus
Close to
years.
or find water that
Around
doesn't need to be
town,
filtered?
Maybe cleaner, better water, less iron, manganese.
You think that'd be something that's gonna happen next 10 years, or we'll need a well?
Within 10 years, I would say.
Huh.
I think Craig will tell you,
Same thing?
give you some of that information next month.
All right, thanks, Jim. We've got, everything there is done. Police review, Lee?
Yeah, we just had a fairly short meeting, talked a little bit about nuisance, following up on some of the nuisance issues. Law enforcement, Donnie Taylor was here, the sheriff, and then Donovan, they talked about vaping issue the schools are having, and Tom Decker and Rich Lamprecht had put on a, I don't know what you call it, a demonstration or training kind of thing up in Ponca that all the area schools attended. So there's a lot of issues with vaping and recognizing vaping and all the issues that go along with that. But as far as things in town, everything seemed to be pretty quiet this last month. Didn't really have any concerns or, major events that took place.
Thank you. CRA, there's a minutes in the packet, aren't they? Anything else, Megan? Anybody else? CRA, you were at the meeting, I imagine? Yeah.
I had a question. So you guys are talking about renting a property maybe, like purchasing and renting?
I wasn't at the last meeting.
Okay. What's the backstory there?
Just to get control of the land, it's adjacent to some other property that we own. And so that way it would allow us to maybe look at doing, a larger project.
Okay.
Kind of give us some other opportunities, so, and I think it would be a property that the council would be in agreeance upon. Once those renters leave, we don't wanna displace the renters because of, a displacement policy, we'd have to pay them moving costs, things like that, so,
So it's for future use,
Yep.
probably, you're not looking at getting in the rental business.
We don't want to
No,
rent it.
absolutely not.
Okay,
Not,
just
no, but
clarifying.
we, again, we don't wanna
Bad
displace
language. Kick 'em out, so.
anybody, so we don't, you know,
But the property's for sale now.
yes.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the CRA is interested in purchasing the property and then making a decision at some other time what development they want to do at that location.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? Planning Commission, you know they've been meeting on a regular basis.
Minutes were in the package.
Minutes are there. Park Board hasn't met, right? Or, no. Library Board, and then we didn't get minutes yet, did we?
They just had a meeting Monday, didn't they?
There's minutes
Yep,
and
there's
minutes
minutes
and-
Are they?
attached,
Okay.
They're in-
and your report.
You guys have read them.
Anytime I put it up there, you do.
Well,
We know they got minutes.
Yep.
Civic Center Board, we heard a report, anything else, Val or Larry?
Nope.
And, Fire Department, we haven't got Adam here tonight. Citizen Advisory
don't meet.
Committee
till-
that meets
don't-
it quarterly.
Meet till April.
Cemetery Board. Hatchery Board. Got a new business, is that a ribbon cutting tomorrow there, or what, yeah?
Greg.
Yep.
What time is that meeting?
8:45, 8:45, yep.
That's the ribbon cutting at 8:45. Is it gonna be cold tomorrow, is that?
It's gonna be cold.
Cold and windy.
Be inside, right, impossible.
We gotta get some people there. We'll get Nolan again.
Tonight, yeah.
So we've got the rehab board doesn't meet, but we gotta figure out something there. There's no real, I think the need for the low income housing has been fulfilled by the other housing program or superseded, but there's still a
Yeah.
board. You ever,
We use the WRDG still
Yeah.
meets, and they have approved down payment assistance loans, but the rehab board is a separate, is something to the best of my knowledge, has never met, so it's like that.
they used to meet, but we haven't had any requests really, is that, I mean, I don't
It's just
quite
like a down
understand.
payment unless there's an application, they're not.
They don't
They're
meet
there to-
unless there's a need, you know?
Okay. Tree board, and we got all of our people are on board there being on the tree board, and they've got, Arbor Day coming up, and we're gonna plant a tree on Arbor Day. Try to have the school kids plant it, we'll have it here ahead of time and have it on display at the school for a few days. Tree board's got a lot to do with they're trying to do that study, I haven't heard if they've made any progress on that or not, but, and find out how our population has changed, but we know we got a lot of ash trees, and we know they're gonna die. And it's probably, I said 30%, and they think it's closer to 40% of our community is ash. So that's gonna be something that's gonna become a bigger issue all the time. Any questions about anything?
We gotta get that sales tax committee, to figure out the.
You've got your committee, do you know who's on there?
We need to get it going.
Yeah.
So,
Are you gonna take care of that?
need to stop in and visit with you and maybe Jim and see where we wanna go and get started on that, right?
Yeah. And that committee, Teresa told us that they can meet until you actually propose the sales tax. You can meet in public buildings, city buildings, right?
And you can have public officials on those.
Right. Yeah, so you're okay until you get a ballot issue ready, then you can't do that anymore. Okay. Anything else for the good of the community? How about the claims?
There aren't any.
I had all your claims, right? I've got the whole list of them, I got your checks that you haven't signed yet, and I'm gonna sign them tomorrow morning. And look at the invoices, right? I think I might have them.
I didn't see that till just
There was none.
this afternoon.
Yeah, I looked at them.
I looked at them.
Was there even Friday?
No.
Yeah. We have email.
Maybe I got the main copy.
Told you, Zach. Screwed up.
Yeah.
We'll get them paid. Can we make a motion to pay the claims? There's nothing online, is there?
Well, the biggest thing on the claims is that wire.
And we already signed that.
I'll make a motion for the claims.
Larry?
Aye.
Ross? Val?
Hi.
Scott? All right. Motion for adjournment.
Oh.
All right.